Have you ever stopped to ask yourself why you consistently choose to seek approval, even when it directly contradicts your true desires? You know exactly who you are and what you genuinely want, yet you still alter your behavior, words, and actions to please someone else. Each compromise feels small at first, harmless even, but gradually these concessions add up, silently eroding your sense of self. You believe you're just being considerate, flexible, or even kind, but could this constant adaptation actually be your greatest betrayal? Consider this carefully. If your endless pursuit of external approval hasn't given you lasting happiness, then what exactly will? What would it take for you to finally choose authenticity over acceptance? Carl Jung called this social mask we wear the persona, the face we present to others to fit in and gain their approval. It's easy to become attached to this persona, believing it's necessary for social harmony. But what happens if you wake up one day unable to recognize yourself beneath this carefully constructed mask? What if the persona you've created for acceptance begins dictating your identity entirely? Ask yourself honestly now. Are you truly fulfilled living behind this mask, or has it slowly become too heavy, suffocating the person you genuinely are inside? Maybe genuine happiness doesn't come from endless attempts to satisfy others, but rather from the courageous decision to remove your mask and stand unapologetically as yourself. The choice before you is clear and direct. Continue chasing fleeting approval from others, or finally grant yourself permission to live authentically. Which life do you genuinely want? The one defined by others' expectations, or the one that truly belongs to you? Every time you chase someone else's approval, you believe you're taking control of your life, shaping it, validating your worth, confirming your value in the eyes of the world. Yet, have you ever considered that this constant pursuit of external acceptance might actually be the very thing trapping you in a quiet cycle of anxiety and exhaustion? Think about how you feel each time your phone buzzes. That small notification, just a few simple words on a screen, somehow triggers a subtle dread within you. Have you ever paused to wonder why? It's not just the message itself. It's the unspoken pressure beneath it. The invisible weight of expectations. You're afraid of disappointing someone, worried that your response won't be good enough, quick enough, kind enough. You convince yourself it's merely thoughtful consideration. But is it truly kindness, or is it fear? Are you genuinely free or quietly imprisoned by the approval you seek from others? You might believe you're doing the right thing by carefully managing everyone's expectations, but in reality, you're unknowingly feeding the chains that bind you. And you're not alone. Countless people live this way every single day, quietly trading their authentic self for a fleeting moment of external approval. Ask yourself this gently but honestly. Have you ever realized that the person placing the greatest pressure on you isn't actually someone else, but yourself? Consider Sarah's story. Sarah, 29, works an ordinary office job in Chicago. One Friday evening, out with friends, laughter fills the air. Yet Sarah suddenly finds herself detached, distant. In the midst of smiles and conversations, she quietly realizes she's pretending. Her laughter forced, her smiles carefully practiced. Beneath the surface, she feels a profound emptiness, disconnected from the very friends around her. At that brief, piercing moment, Sarah recognizes something painful, yet enlightening. She's been following a script written by others rather than living her own truth. Have you experienced moments like Sarah's? Smiling through social gatherings when deep down you're feeling isolated and misunderstood? Laughing along to jokes you don't find funny? Agreeing to ideas you don't resonate with, simply to avoid upsetting anyone? Take a moment and gently ask yourself now, how often have you hidden behind a smile when deep within you felt utterly empty? There's a deeper paradox to consider here. The more you try to appear positive and happy to please others, the more distant and wounded you become inside. Imagine a performer on a stage, endlessly repeating a role until they no longer remember their true self. Perhaps you're exactly like that performer, wearing a mask of constant positivity, always acting upbeat, optimistic, and agreeable. But in your quieter moments, have you sensed the aching distance between who you genuinely are and who you pretend to be? You're not weak for acknowledging this exhaustion. In fact, you're incredibly courageous for even allowing yourself to recognize it. Maybe you've been trying too hard for too long to convince the world and yourself that everything's fine. Maybe your fatigue isn't a sign of weakness, but a gentle message from your inner self, asking you to finally slow down, to pause, and to listen. Here's a powerful insight you might have overlooked. Genuine happiness, true fulfillment, comes not from gaining acceptance from others, but from deeply accepting yourself. It arrives when you finally stop chasing external validation and instead turn inward, courageously acknowledging who you truly are and what you genuinely desire. Think about this carefully. If you continue to shape your life around the approval of others, how can you ever truly know what you yourself really want? If every choice, every action, every word is tailored to meet someone else's expectations, how can you ever experience real freedom or authentic joy? Perhaps right now, what you truly need is not another action performed to gain someone else's validation, but simply the courage and compassion to embrace yourself exactly as you are. Imagine the relief you'd feel if you finally allowed yourself to set aside the constant worry about others' opinions. Imagine the clarity you'd gain if you stopped performing and started simply living. Imagine the peace that would flood into your life the moment you granted yourself permission to honor your own truth. Your happiness isn't dependent on what others think or say about you. Your worth doesn't fluctuate with their approval or disapproval. Your true freedom is already within you, waiting quietly for your recognition. The moment you finally choose authenticity over approval, you'll feel a profound shift, one that brings genuine fulfillment and lasting happiness. So ask yourself honestly, right now, what are you truly afraid of losing if you stopped seeking everyone else's approval? Are you afraid of rejection, isolation, judgment? Or are you simply afraid of facing your own truth, the beautiful, imperfect reality of who you genuinely are? Remember Sarah's brief moment of clarity and imagine it becoming your own. Imagine stepping away from the stage, gently removing the mask you've worn for far too long, and feeling the relief and freedom of finally being yourself. It's entirely possible, and perhaps even necessary, to choose your own authenticity over someone else's acceptance. You're not here merely to fulfill the expectations of others. You're here to live your life fully, honestly, and unapologetically as yourself. The freedom and happiness you've long sought are waiting, not out there in the approval of others, but inside you, quietly waiting for the day you finally stop and choose yourself. Right now, consider this truth clearly and directly. Your true value exists independently of anyone else's approval. You do not have to prove yourself, perform endlessly, or constantly chase validation to be genuinely worthy. Your worth was never defined by the nod of someone else's head, the praise of a friend, or even the acceptance of family. Yet you've spent so much energy seeking precisely that approval. Why? Look closely at your daily reality. Each day you rise, you dress yourself not only in clothing, but in expectations. Expectations of others and expectations of your own making. You smile when inside you feel like crying. You say yes when every part of your being is screaming no. You've built your life around meeting external expectations, believing that fulfillment lies in making everyone around you happy. But has it truly worked? Here's the stark truth. No matter how tirelessly you strive to please everyone, their approval will always be temporary. Each validation is fleeting, every moment of acceptance transient. The chase is endless, exhausting, and fundamentally unfulfilling. Why? Because the validation you seek from others cannot fill the emptiness left by abandoning yourself. Think about this carefully. Each time you adapt yourself to meet someone else's expectation, you lose a small piece of your genuine self. Each compromise, each forced smile, each withheld opinion, these tiny betrayals accumulate over time, leaving you disconnected and empty. Maybe you've begun to notice how exhausting this constant adaptation feels, how deeply it wears you down. The question now becomes, how much longer are you willing to live this way? Consider the myth of Sisyphus, who was condemned to eternally roll a heavy stone uphill, only to have it roll back down each time he reached the summit. His task was endless, his labor seemingly meaningless. Like Sisyphus, you may feel trapped in the endless struggle of seeking external approval. You push the stone, your persona, your carefully constructed image of approval, up the steep slope of societal expectations. But each day, inevitably, the stone rolls back down and the cycle repeats. Yet, the profound lesson of Sisyphus lies not only in the endlessness of his task, but also in his freedom of response. He cannot prevent the stone from falling, just as you cannot control the shifting expectations of others. But what you can control, what you always control, is your response. You have the power, at any moment, to step back and ask yourself clearly, why am I doing this? Who am I truly pushing this stone for? Pause and ask yourself with complete honesty, what if the approval you've spent years chasing has no real meaning at all? What if your true happiness and inner peace have always existed precisely where you've least expected, in simply accepting yourself exactly as you are? Imagine clearly, vividly, and precisely how it would feel to release your grip on that heavy stone of approval. Imagine waking tomorrow without the heavy burden of other people's expectations pressing upon your shoulders. Imagine finally allowing yourself the freedom to make choices based solely on your genuine desires and authentic self, rather than on fears of judgment or rejection. Are you afraid of rejection if you live as your authentic self? Perhaps. But isn't it far more terrifying to live a life constantly hiding who you truly are? The real rejection, the deepest rejection you face, is actually self-rejection. The subtle abandonment of your true self each time you choose external approval over inner authenticity. Maybe the real courage lies in standing openly as yourself, without apology or compromise, even if it means risking judgment. True strength emerges not from endlessly adapting yourself to please others, but from being willing to live in alignment with your genuine values and desires, even if it means disappointing someone else. Now consider this clearly. What genuinely matters most to you? Do you want to keep running endlessly toward temporary acceptance and shallow validation? Or do you want to finally pause, breathe, and begin living authentically? This isn't a complicated decision. It's clear, direct, and powerful. Your choice in this very moment will shape your entire future. You might be worried about losing the approval of others if you live authentically, but ask yourself honestly, what is more valuable, temporary external approval or lasting inner peace? What is more important? Others thinking well of you or you thinking well of yourself? The greatest freedom you'll ever experience comes the moment you stop seeking approval from the outside world and grant it fully to yourself. It's not complicated, it's a direct and powerful truth. You don't need someone else's validation to confirm your worth. Your worth exists unconditionally, independent of any outside recognition or approval. Today, right now, you can make the decision to stop pushing the heavy stone of external expectations uphill. You can choose authenticity over adaptation, freedom over fear, self-acceptance over endless external validation. This choice is simple, direct, and profound. Ask yourself this final question clearly and directly. Are you willing to keep compromising who you truly are to gain temporary approval? Or will you finally allow yourself the freedom to live according to your genuine desires? Your authentic self is waiting patiently. Your genuine happiness and inner peace are quietly urging you to turn inward rather than outward. Stop pushing the stone of external approval uphill, and instead stand firmly and clearly as yourself. The moment you do this, everything will change. Not because the world around you suddenly shifts, but because you finally, truly, unmistakably become yourself. Right now, you stand at a crossroads. You have every right to continue chasing the fleeting comfort of external approval, living according to someone else's expectations. But before you choose to continue down that familiar path, take just a moment and imagine something different, something powerful and clear. What if today, right now, you finally chose to stop? Imagine waking up tomorrow and stepping into a life no longer defined by the validation of others. Picture yourself looking in the mirror without the heavy mask you've worn for so long, seeing your true face clearly for the first time. How would it feel to meet yourself again, genuinely and authentically, without pretending or performing? How would your relationship shift if you finally spoke your truth without fear or hesitation? Consider deeply how your life would transform if you released the constant worry about pleasing everyone around you. Would your shoulders feel lighter? Would the anxious knots in your chest finally unravel? Maybe you'd begin to experience a deep, genuine peace, a quiet joy you've longed for but never truly known. It might feel frightening at first to imagine stepping away from the endless pursuit of acceptance. You might wonder who you'd be without the constant pressure of others' approval. But ask yourself honestly, is it more frightening to risk the judgment of others or to continue living as a stranger to your true self? Your true self has always been waiting patiently beneath layers of expectations and adaptation. The happiness and fulfillment you seek aren't waiting at the end of another approval, no matter how tempting it feels, but in your willingness to accept yourself fully, exactly as you are right now. If you've recognized any part of yourself in what you've just heard, gently pause and write down how you're feeling right now. Sometimes, simply putting words to your emotions can reveal truths you've quietly ignored. A single sentence might be all it takes to see yourself with greater clarity, compassion, and honesty. And if you're ready, if this resonates deeply within you, I invite you to subscribe. Together, we'll gently explore this journey deeper, discovering step by step what it truly means to live authentically, free from the endless need for external approval. Your true self, with all its imperfections, beauty, and strength, deserves to be met, embraced, and celebrated. Today, the choice is yours. Continue living in pursuit of approval, or courageously choose authenticity. One path leads you back into familiar compromise. The other leads directly to the freedom of becoming genuinely you. Which will you choose?